Woohoo! We are back, and what an incredible intro. I have to thank the man himself, the man, the myth, the legend, Salty Travelling Sea.
Well, when it's wild, weird, wonderful werewolf weekend woo-woo, you have to bring your A game. Thanks for letting me help out on that. Hail to everybody in chat. Hail to everybody on the replay. Oh my God, do we have weird, disturbing, wonderful stuff today? Just Purple and I were comparing notes before the show, and we are. This is some deep weird good, as opposed to deep weird bad, which is turn on the news, So yeah.
Yes, I love it when we do a theme show, and I think we've got a really good one for you today, guys. But before we kind of jump into the whole weird medical side, I thought we'd kick it off with a couple of very strange animal-related ones. But before we do, let me say hey to a couple of people. We have got Singe and Dildo. Great to see you as always. We've got the man with the sauce. It's your Barmy. Great to see you. Hope everyone is doing well today. Thank you guys for joining us. So I will kick it off with this very weird story. Now, this one caught my eye. You might have seen this one. It just made me laugh. So apparently a Chinese zoo has been forced to deny that a bear that they've got on display is actually a human in a costume.
I saw this. If it is, it's not someone who's Chinese. They're not tall enough. So I don't know. Did they bring in people from America to pretend to be bears? And hail to Sarah Green, who's just joined us. She says there's real woo-woo out there. Disneyland Anaheim is haunted. I've heard about that. I have heard about that. But let's talk about these bears.
Yeah, this weird bear. Now this let's see what they've got to say about this. So zoo goers can barely, I love a good pun, believe it's real. Well, that's a lukewarm pun. A zoo in China has refused to grin and bear it. Oh God, here we go. After a video of one of its bears standing on its hind legs went viral, forcing officials to deny that it was in fact a person in a costume. Now, you've probably seen, and I'm sure Salty, you covered it on your show, the gentleman who decided to have a very realistic collie. Yes, absolutely. That's what I thought they were going.
I was going to cover it today, but because we're focusing on weird medical and zoological things today, I'm going to save it. But yes, we do have a follow-up to the gentleman who spent $20,000 to have an all-too-real collie costume.
And it's just as disturbing as you think it was going to be.
I have a strange hobby. I collect toys. I got a new toy, as a matter of fact. I got a new Batman right there. But one thing I don't do is pretend to be an animal and go around smelling other animals' butts. But there I go. This is why I don't work in Hollywood. I'm just... This is my white supremacy showing, Purple Valkyrie.
There's something patriarchy, I'm absolutely sure.
Hail the Roman of the Empire. He's joined us as well. So, yeah, your Barmy, I think you might have solved the case. He says Larry Bird is being paid by Commie China to be a bear now. Well, his knees have gone. I don't know about standing on cement that long, but I think you might be onto something. I think you might. God knows the Chinese wouldn't hire Julius Erving, right? Right?
Hey.
Everybody get that one? All right, Purple, go ahead. Yeah.
So it says the Hangzhou Zoo addressed the wild allegations in a statement, pretending to be from Angela. So this is the Malaysian sun bear. So seen standing up and staring at bemused visitors. Well, what else are you going to do if you're in a zoo but kind of stand around and stare back at people? I think just to freak them out.
The only thing that would surprise me that comes out of China is rationality and morality. Okay, so yeah. Go ahead, Purple. Let's. I can barely contain myself waiting for where to get to the heart of the den of this story.
Apparently, Angela, who is the name of the bear, they said in a statement, I think they're taking this a little bit far. Some people think that I stand like a person. It seems you don't understand me very well, said the bear. Video of the bear drew attention as spectators noticed its slender legs and folds of fur, weirdos, that made the creature appear that it was a person standing in a bear costume. What do you think, guys? Do you think that this looks like a person in a bear costume? Or does it just look like a bear that's very bored and doesn't really want to be in a zoo? Now, there is video. Do we want to see video of this thing? Because apparently it waves as well.
Well, see, here's the thing. I years ago have gone through the drive-through wildlife safari things they have where bears would stand on their hind legs, bears would wave to people. We've all seen videos of that. None of this is shocking to me. This just looks like a Eurasian bear, and I don't know. Let's watch a video though.
Let's see what this bear does. Come on, you gonna play? There we go. Yeah, I mean, I guess. It's a real animal. Yes, it's a real animal. It's a bear, and they're throwing things at it.
For a moment, it did look like John Goodman, and after all of the stomach, after all of the stomach staples, you know what I mean. He's got a lot of loose flesh, but I think John Goodman probably would get another gig than just being a bear in a Chinese zoo.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's method acting, and then there's dressing up as a bear. It's
yeah,
but I thought that was weird, and it made me smile. So
this is just one of those things where I would it surprise me if it was a dude in a bear costume in China? Absolutely not. I mean, they eat everything, so maybe somebody ate all the bears in the zoo, and then they're like, "Hey, let's go get the Uyghurs out of the prison camp and put them in bear costumes." Now that would not surprise me at all, would it? So.
Ascension Dildo said that's a monkey bear hybrid. Sarah Green says man bear pig. Could be wrong. Could be onto something.
John Goodman on a bender. That's kind of what you're saying, right? I have something that I've got. I've got something that I promised to do in a previous show, and we ran out of time. And this is going to be a crowd pleaser. It's one of my favorite things in life, and that is breasts. And I'm talking about those on biologically born females. So let's reach right in and get both hands on this story. What your breast size says about your health. Your cup size could be telling you something. Yes, this is from a trash site, and yeah, I could probably just stop at this picture.
Hey, they're impressive. What can
Purple, I totally have stream brain. What are we doing today? I never. All right. Okay. So, new data reveals the countries around the world where women have the biggest breasts and the smallest breasts. Here's what it means for your health. So while many might think that bigger is better when it comes to breast size.
Can I get an amen in the chat, please?
Amen in the chat. According to information collated by World Data on the average breast size worldwide, your bust might be a telling indicator of your overall health. So the largest breasts in the world can be found in Norway, Iceland, the UK, the United States. Way to represent Purple Valkyrie. Way to represent all of our British cousins. Not to mention all of the lovely Norwegian women, and the Icelandic women, and of course, I wish they could all, be here and visit the United States. Now, the smallest breasts, this will come as a shock to no one, are in Central Africa and Southeast Asia. Overall, it's striking that increased breast size often occur in countries where obesity is also a problem. See, that's not entirely accurate, and this is where we go off on some weird tangent. But the only country in the top 20 to have a healthy body mass index was Denmark at 24.6. The biggest of the bustier bunch was the United States at 29 for a BMI. This figure was just 1 point shy of moving into the overweight category. Now, we have to be careful with this because body size, height, bone density, all of these other things are radically, I think, misrepresented in some of these things. So obviously, if you're a little thick, if you're kind of a little thotty, if you got a little junk in the trunk, that obviously contributes to larger breast size. But as far as women carrying smaller cup sizes, they are African or Asian nations. Now, the reasons why for the striking regional distribution of breast sizes, especially of small sizes in central, oh Jesus, this thing just jumped on me all by itself. It's possessed. So there's a genetic cause. There is, and women in these subcontinents are generally smaller in frame and lighter. Look at Thailand, Vietnam, a lot of the interior South African nations. These are, very traditionally, they're just smaller framed, and also for generations may not have had the most nutritious diets. Let's be honest about that. But anyway, there we go. Let's look at it. Let's look at the top list of the top 20 biggest breasts, and then we'll move on to something else. So number 1 is Norway with the CD.
Proud Norwegians, thank you.
Luxembourg, they rock a C. Iceland, the most common is a C. United States, UK. Then we start getting into our South American friends and Central American. Venezuela, Colombia, Sweden is in there. The Netherlands, they're more of a BC type of a range. That includes Russia, Poland. I don't know about Poland. There's a lot of Polish girls I know that you could lose yourself in there and never be found again in that cleavage. Bulgarian women.
See, I'm surprised at these. These are only B to C cups, and I would have thought that a D cup would have been an average.
Yeah, especially in Poland. Then you've got Turkish women, New Zealand, Ireland, Croatia, Australia. They're more in the B range. So there you go. I just thought it was kind of wild that somebody somewhere thought they were scientifically going to judge the breast size of women around the world. And then, of course, they're going to make everybody feel bad for my climate or something else like that.
Yeah, no doubt they tied it in, but how amazing would that have been to be the researcher, to go around, get some real hands-on?
I would have done that. I don't want to brag about it, but I'm kind of an expert. I'm kind of an expert at judging, just,
The science, Salty. The science.
Put that out. Yeah. Trust the science. Trust Salty's science. What do you got, Purple Valkyrie?
It's Sunshine Daughter says, show us an article about big booties. I like those.
I'll have to look at it. I'm gonna have to look at it. If it's now that it's been requested, we will have to cover that. But this is a legitimate,
and you shall receive
legitimate science show. All right, so only if it's relevant. I'm not gonna go to junkinthetrunk.com. We're not going there. So
we don't do trash sites on this show. It's all very serious science, as you can tell. But
not like the World Health Organization. We're serious here. Inhale to smile a while for me.
Hello, love, great to see you. But since we are talking science and medical, I thought we would jump in, because that is going to be the theme of today's show. So let me go way, way back in history. I'm going to take you guys back to the Middle Ages and to weird medieval practices. Now, you guys know that this is probably not the best time to be alive, but after these 6, you can probably see why. The average lifespan was early 30s. And let me say hello to Zach. It's great to see you as always. So,
hey, dude.
It says 6 medieval medical practices. That's a mouthful that will make you relieved to live in the 21st century. Well, we'll see. It's been a weird few years.
All right, let's do this.
So let's take a moment of immersion and imagine ourselves among the knights, kings, and castles that graced the time of history known as the Middle or Medieval Ages. The medieval period from the 5th century all the way to the 15th was known for its ferocious crusades, gruesome torture, deadly revolutions, and Gothic art. That's quite an eclectic mix. However, what the people of this period were definitely not famous for were their advancements in medicine. That's an understatement, especially when compared with their predecessors, the Greeks and Romans. But nobody wants to say why. What about this era in time made the practice of medicine nearly stand still, if not digress? Well, let's have a look.
The world, the mini ice age that was partially started and get ready for this. Everything old is new again. Don't worry. Once the West falls, we'll be back to doing a lot of these things. I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So get your hand in now, guys, because you might need to learn some of these tricks.
Start a leech farm. You'll be a millionaire. You will.
Trust us. Trust the science. So it says, well, it has a lot to do with the beliefs of the people who lived during the time. The medieval ages were a period of history controlled heavily by the Roman Catholic Church. As a result, religion became intertwined with every aspect of their lives, including medicine. Through the lens of religion, illness was thought as God's punishment for those who had been bad people. Unsurprisingly, this meant medical procedures weren't exactly the best. So let's see what they had to offer. So coming in at number 1, we had bloodletting. The practice of draining blood or bloodletting. It just gets worse from here, guys. Actually dates back before the Middle Ages to the times of the ancient Greek. So they probably actually did it a lot better than the Middle Ages did.
I was going to say there were some cases where it actually did work under more antiseptic and controlled conditions. In this case, you were lucky if the dude bothered to wipe the donkey fecal matter off his hands and clean the rust off the bread knife that he was going to go at you with. I mean, that's how a lot of people actually perished, was through secondary infection, through unsanitary things and
shock.
And shock. Yeah.
So it says, to understand why this practice was so common, you must understand what ancient physicians believed about the body. So the theory from the ancient Greeks was that it centered around the idea that our body consisted of 4 substances known as humours, each one of them related to a particular personality type and specific organ in the body. It all gets a little bit weird, but people believed it, and if you had an imbalance in these particular organs or humours, then that made you sick. So to correct that, that's where the patient had to lose some blood, basically. Doctors recommended bloodletting for many conditions, everything from smallpox to fainting spells, gout, and even poor temperament. So if you were having a bad day and the doctors decided, you know what, I'll cheer you up, a little bit of bloodletting, well, that's what you were going to get, basically. The practice was performed with specific instruments used to cut into the blood vessels in your neck. Bad idea. Forearm or leeches. By the way, there is a poll in the chat if you guys want to vote as well. Leeches was actually on there, which was surprisingly the more humane version of doing it, and people still use leeches to this day, don't they, Salty?
And maggots. And actually, they actually do use maggots in the case of certain types of necrotic flesh. And these maggots are grown in incredibly sanitary conditions, but it is one of the only ways to really, in some cases, of advanced gangrene or of MERS, of antibiotic resistant infections, which are occurring through the overuse of big pharma. And I just got you to. Oh wait, you're not monetized. Big pharma. The overuse of antibiotics, which has created superbugs, which are kind of a lot more prevalent than people think. But it's not just that; they actually still do use leeches to a certain case too. And again, if somebody knows what they're doing, it's very select cases. They list off a couple of diseases that are there, like hemocytochromiosis and things like that, which is. That is just these are very rare things. It's not like, oh, I have a headache, so why don't you cut one of my arteries and take a bucket of blood out of me? So
attach a few leeches and see what happens. Absolutely.
Martin Acosta Santana is here. Welcome. I haven't seen you before. It's freaking awesome to see.
Good to see
so
you.
Don't forget to vote in the poll, because we will be checking out those results.
Yes, indeed. And it just gets weird from here. So coming in number 2, we've got medicinal cannibalism. As you may have noticed, medieval society was not one of acceptance. Not really. People were intolerant, superstitious, and feared human individuality. Where have I heard that before?
Wait a minute. Wait, are you reading it? This is like Twitter. I mean, this is literally like, or Smith College or Harvard, the Ivy League schools. Yeah, can't wait. Can't look forward to that future. I'll be dead, so it's fine. But yeah, good luck with that. Sorry, we were talking about cannibalism. Go ahead.
We were, yes, something much more pleasant. So it's no surprise that something as crude and as weird as cannibalism was actually widely accepted and was considered a perfectly normal medical treatment. So back in medieval times, people believed that human flesh, blood, and bones could cure you. One of the things that they did was actually use ground up mummies as well for treatments. Not a good idea, guys.
I want. Okay, who's with me? I want to smoke some dried up mummy. No, I don't indulge in drugs. I really don't. I would do ayahuasca under controlled circumstances. The kind of the kind of shaman that Joe Rogan can afford. If I had that kind of a cat, I would totally go and hang with the machine elves. I would totally do that. But other stuff, it doesn't really do anything, because between liquor and women, I have managed to screw my life up enough. Trust me. So I don't need the other stuff. Okay, but true story. But I would smoke some mummy. I would. Who's with me? Let's pass a little mummy around.
Pass the mummy a little. Just snort it or smoke it? I have no idea.
I'm not snorting anything, but I will smoke some mummy. I will. I don't know how chat feels about that. But
I'll check back in the chat.
I'm being as real as I can right here. Sorry, Purple. Go ahead.
No, absolutely. So again, this was used to treat a wide range of ailments, everything from gout and epilepsy. Your doctors would give their patients oil made from boiled human bones.
What could go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? Absolutely.
Zach says we should bring back the treatment for female hysteria. He's sure that he can find volunteers to help. Yeah. We've covered that in previous shows where a trained physician would help relieve the tension of that hysterical female, and I think it was finding a certain spot. It wasn't the H spot, it wasn't the F spot,
some sort of alphabet. Yes,
it's one of those. It's somewhere. It's one of those spots, and then she went back to normal, like
magic. Yeah,
Yeah, and you're not wrong. You're barmy about mushrooms. Mushrooms, those are good too. Sorry, Purple. Go ahead.
No, not at all. So, as we said, for rich people, Egyptian mummies were a source of magical human flesh. However, some people preferred a cheaper option, which consisted of attending an execution, filling a jug, towel, or cup with flesh blood, even before the victim was dead. That's one hell of a souvenir to take away with you. Many believe that consuming human parts could leave you with a part of the dead human soul, boosting your vitality and serving as a gruesome fountain of youth.
So this is the early phase of adrenochrome, which we won't talk about, but everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Yes.
A lot of these old beliefs that go back to old Europe in the 17th, 18th, 19th century are still with us. They're still with us, and in my opinion, a lot of the same old families that have always controlled everything, their cookbooks are pretty much still the same. So, yeah.
If they're very much in the vein of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah.
Especially when you're a trillionaire. Martin Acosta Santana says he guesses he'll settle for just a little secondhand mummy smoke. Well, I'll blow it right in your face. I'll blow you. I'll take a big hit of that Nefertiti nice, and then we'll just do it. Just
that would be
get that
awesome
contact,
event.
get that mummy contact high.
Love it. Oh my god, I want some ground up mummy now.
No.
This one you've probably all heard of. It's drilling a hole in the
Jesus.
head, because why the hell not let out the bad humours? If you're one that shies away from gory movies and gruesome history, well, you're in the wrong place, because I love that sort of thing. This medical practice will probably seem extra horrific. It's trepanation, a practice still used today, which involves drilling a hole into a patient's skull. Because why not? Today, this practice is used for several procedures, but back then it could be used to treat everything, basically.
Yeah.
Headache.
Yeah.
You're going to get a hole in the head.
They thought you had ghosts in your blood. It's a simplification, but it's also an accurate run. So some of those ghosts lived in your head, and so they had to drill a hole in your head so the ghost could escape.
Gotta
I'm
let
not
the evil
saying
spirits out.
I'm not. Here's the question: Is doing that better or worse than what they did with certain very large pharmaceutical companies who don't have any liability for what they said? To me, it's essentially the same thing, except that in the modern day case, they made a lot of money. So
yes, but at least back then, doctors had the good grace to admit they didn't know what the hell they were doing.
it's true, and it's much cooler to say somebody had to drill in my hole in my head to let a ghost in my blood out. Don't tell me there weren't dudes down at the pub going, yeah, that doctor, I had this ghost. I had to drill a hole that big to let the ghost out of my head. You know, dudes were doing that. That's what dudes do now. That's what Zach
You can make a feature out of it. You know, you could stick a candle in there or, you know, something.
Yeah. Sarah Green says Star Trek 4 featured that practice. This is entirely true.
This is true. You're not drinking.
Some of those cases currently you do it to relieve intracranial pressure. Those are more extreme cases, brain swelling, encephalitis, tumors, other stuff like that. I am not a physician, but I do know those are certain situations where that occurs. So
absolutely. And unlike today, back in the medieval times, this was done entirely without anesthesia or pain relief. So yeah, that you'd have to go a long way to want to get a hole put in your head.
Wandering womb. Is that a Kardashian? Is this something about
so many jokes.
Wandering womb, or is that just a wide open womb? I'm gonna get in trouble because reasons they'll call me something.
Like throwing a hot dog down a corridor, absolutely. So next, as it says, this is the idea that doesn't give you the perfect insight into women's medicine in the medieval period, then I don't know what will. So basically, doctors thought in the Middle Ages they didn't really have much of an idea of how a woman's body, especially the reproductive area, worked. So they just kind of winged it. They believed
like
that
now.
Yes.
Like now. That's all I'm gonna say. Like now.
They believed that a woman's uterus actually had a life of its own. Feels like it sometimes, I'm not going to lie. They also believed that a woman's uterus strongly desired to carry a fetus. It said that if a woman wasn't routinely pregnant, then the uterus would leave its home in the pelvis and start wandering around the body in search of something to fill the lonely womb.
Hey, doctor, my womb is in my elbow. Again, we laugh at this, but how far off is it than the stuff that you're hearing today? You know, with like I have to be very careful because this is not my channel, but the same stuff that we're hearing, we can't tell the difference between a man and a woman, and all of this other nonsense. And yeah, I mean, again, why are we going back to things which are demonstratively false and insane? You know, and we are, and that's the weirdest thing about this is everything old is new again. Everything
it is, and that's one of the reasons we decided to do this today, to kind of highlight just how, you know, the parallels that we're seeing at the moment. So, according to this, the physician said a wandering womb is very, very serious. The womb could cause severe illness and, our favourite word, hysteria, by running into vital organs and smashing them.
You know what? I just got an image of the uterus running into the pancreas, and they're exchanging insurance information. Like it's a head-on collision between the womb and the pancreas, and there's like broken glass, and there's tears, and then there's ambulances coming. Again, how different is this type of insanity and thinking than what we're dealing with right now? It's not. Yeah.
Well, they thought that if it ran into the lungs, it could ultimately cause suffocation. That's how serious the wandering womb was, ladies.
Jokes that I want to make about the well-endowed, you know, and tasting it, but I'm not going to do that because I am not that kind of guy. I would never make a joke like that on Purple Valkyrie's channel.
Never.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, we're classy here. But never fear, ladies, the medieval doctors knew how to remedy this. If a physician believed that the uterus had made its way to the top of the poor woman's body, he would place an unpleasant smelling fumes or a rag or something under the nose, sweet smelling fumes between her legs, and the hope was that this would cause the uterus to retreat back down to its rightful place and stay there.
So you're baiting the uterus. And hail to cheers to Nerdporeal Lifeform. He put out a great video last night on an anime show that he likes. It's great to see everybody. Yeah, I mean, again, what do you do with this? What do you do with this? Those of us who, you know, none of this makes any sense, and yet everything they're doing fits into the same category as what they're doing now with kids, you know, because they have an irrational idea. And it's crazy. It's crazy. It's cringe. It's absolutely cringe. And yet here we are, you know. It's almost like we're having a second Dark Ages induced upon us for the very same reasons, because feudalism, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They probably were, Zax. They probably were, like...
yeah, again, I'm seeing parallels here. Yes, sure we're being trolled.
Yeah. Smile from me says, was the cure conveniently having to satisfy a woman as well? Well, I think these are all just reasons for the doctor to sleep with the town ladies. If it cured him, who am I to judge? You know, I mean,
well,
I know what you're saying.
I'm not a doctor, but yes.
At the end of the day, I mean, we weren't there. There's so much wrong with this. There's so much weird and wrong with this. But then again, there's so much weird and wrong going on right now. It is strange. It is weird. You know, the Victorian era was a strange time. The medieval times were really strange. It was really strange with their belief systems, what they ate, what they drank, their lack of hygiene. Mm-hmm. And of course, a lot of that was kept in place by the feudal system.
Yeah.
You know,
we really did reset ourselves.
Yeah. And a lot of it was induced by the huge climactic change of the global weather for a variety of reasons. You know, there were years without summer and sunlight. And, you know, the mini ice age that we're still in, we're on the tail end of the mini ice age right now. You know, it just changed everything fundamentally. And, you know, again, there is nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new under the sun. And here we are living in a world where none of us can explain, why are people doing all these things?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why are people believing it, and why are they going along with it? It's a question we've asked many times, trust me.
Yeah.
But I will finish off this particular one with one of the obviously most famous things that happened during the medieval time. It was the Black Death, the bubonic plague, killed roughly a third of Europe's entire population, which was 20 million deaths in just 5 years. So it was a bacterial caused infection that was spread by fleas, then infected rats. They thought it was actually cats and dogs. They killed all the cats and dogs, and that caused the rat population to absolutely explode and killed even more people.
Yeah, you know, what the shame is, I'm sure there's a lot of people looking back going, if only those medieval doctors had large herbalists that could have already had some type of fake cure in place that actually made whatever it was worse, you know, so that they could keep selling that fake cure for the Black Death. Imagine all the money that could be made. I'm so glad people would never do that now, you know?
Absolutely no. Nobody would ever think of sinking to that level. And Third Green says, wait, you skipped over the King's Touch? Well, I can go back to the King's Touch if you like. I didn't think it was that interesting, that one. I thought the Black Death was more interesting, but so I'll go back to it if you like. All right, let me finish the Black Death first. So it was believed to have been a punishment from God sent to destroy all sinners. This, unfortunately, led to even worse ideas. While some people prayed for salvation, others took it a step further, including massacring anybody who did not follow Christian law. Flagellation became another way people thought they could end the plague.
Did they lose their jobs and not be able to go to the market? Did they have to stand 6 feet apart? Did they have to do that too? Sorry, everything old is new again. You guys think I'm being funny, but it's like, you know, here we are, and it's just, yeah.
Well, it's funny that you should mention this, because some of the things that they did to break it up, they thought it was caused by stale air, so they actually tried to break up the air with loud noises, bells, guns, birds. Others burned aromatic herbs. and our old favourite bloodletting was also part of it. Anybody remember standing outside in the UK clapping? I certainly remember that on the news. Again, everything old is new. But here we go. For Sarah Green, since you did ask, so this one was the King's Touch. So similar to how King Midas's touch turned things to gold, kings in the medieval times were believed to heal the sick with only a touch of the hand. Dubbed the royal touch, a monarch's touch was often used as a treatment for scapular or cervical tuberculosis. Wow, that's yeah, we'll see. So this is it affects the area outside of the lungs, usually causing inflamed lymph nodes in the neck. That sounds more like a symptom of the plague, but what the heck do I know? So the royal touch.
I was going to say, don't worry, tuberculosis is coming back in a big way if you live in the United States. Lots of people coming in with tuberculosis, which is a terrible, very difficult disease to cure. I'm going to stop talking now, but go ahead, Purple. Yeah.
No, you're absolutely correct. Again, diseases that we thought had wiped out, such as tuberculosis and the plague, are actually making a comeback. I can't imagine why that would be. But the royal touch was such a popular treatment that it became known as the king's evil. People would stand in line for hours and wait for the king's magical healing touch. It's believed that King Charles II touched around 100,000 of his subjects after performing several ceremonies a year during the entirety of his reign. So there you go.
Wow.
Now, whether or not this actually worked, I don't know, but that's a lot of touching of peasants going on.
Yeah, King Charles III will not be doing that. Spoiler alert for those of you out there. Good old Prince Chuck. So I'm going to turn a corner here. This does involve bizarre medical things, but I wanted to break it up a little bit. And this is a true story I saw. And I have spent a lot of time in this region, and I find it virtually impossible. So let me know if that's on screen.
It's up. What have we got here?
This is from yesterday. Wild otter attack. Wild otter attack leads to women being airlifted to the hospital with two others being treated for injuries. Now, I know what you're saying to yourself. How the hell do otters cause this type of... Oh my God, look at this website. I'm going to scream. All right. I knew there's a reason I hated ABC. So we're going to look at some footage. You can see there is the vicious otter. There's the vicious killer himself. Look at that. Obviously attacking that water ski like a great white shark. I'm going to watch this.
Wow.
No, look at these fascists. Yeah, nobody cares. Yeah, so there we go.
That's an orca.
Yeah. So there it is. Look, there's warning posters. Aggressive sea otter in this area. Enter the water at your own risk. Hey, Spielberg, I know you did Jaws, but I think you should come out of retirement to do an otter movie. You could call it Pause. I'm not saying you need to give me credit. Just have me go to Hollywood for the premiere on the red carpet. I think that would be payment enough. So what's insane about this? What's absolutely insane? And let's see if there's any footage worth looking at. Yeah, look at this. Here we go. Look at this. There's an otter on these boards. Look at them. Look at these bloodthirsty killers. Look at this force of nature, murderous beast. Look at this. It is crazy. Look at the horror. Look at that. Look at the horror that they unleash. Look at this. It is scarier than a shark fin. Look at this.
That's a big otter. And you said that was a sea otter, correct?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So let's get back to the article because somehow somebody apparently did get hurt by this. Now, 3 women were injured, with one woman needing to be airlifted to the hospital from an otter after they attacked them while they were floating down a river on inner tubes. The incident occurred just this past Wednesday at about 8:15 in the evening. They were floating 3 miles near Helena, Montana. So it's Montana. So the women say they observed 1 or 2 otters while they were floating, and then all of a sudden they approached and attacked the women, causing the women to flee the water and the otter to swim away. The women then called 911 and several agencies responded, including the Montana Highway Patrol, the Sheriff's Department, the ambulance service, and the state of Montana Fish Wild Parks. And then the Life Flight helicopter also arrived. Now, all three women were injured and received medical attention in Bozeman, Montana, 40 miles away. One of the women was so injured by this bloodthirsty, look at him.
This does not strike no regrets.
Fear into your heart. Look at this killer. She was airlifted by helicopter for emergency treatment. While otter attacks are rare, otters can be protective of themselves when they're young, especially at close distances. They give birth in April and their young are in the water in summer. And I've seen these damn things all over where I live here now. I find this an incredibly ridiculous occurrence. Obviously, like anything else, when something like this happens, they have to overreact and post signs. I wouldn't be surprised if they went out there and unfortunately ended a whole bunch of very innocent otter, because that's the stupidity of situations like this. Obviously, keep away from wildlife. Doesn't matter if it's a bison or a shark or otters. One final piece of advice, should you ever find yourself being menaced by this bloodthirsty creature: quote, if you're attacked by an otter, fight back, get away, get out of the water, and immediately seek medical attention. How did chat like that? Because I couldn't tell. This is literally one of those things. Yeah, river otters are different than sea otters, because I see both all the time. I walk down a certain trail and there are marshy areas that are around right off of the ocean, and I've seen otters scamper. They scamper. They're adorable. They're freaking otters. I've seen them scamper, and I've seen them carrying their young, but it's like anything else. Just leave the goddamn thing alone, you know? And if it charges at you, there's a reason, you know? And I find it really strange that these three women were floating in inner tubes, that somehow they could have been so injured that they would need medical attention, and one would have to be life flighted to Bozeman. I'm going to really need to see more about this story. And I may seem like a heartless asshole, but I'm thinking somebody was attention seeking or was hysterical and probably need to get laid like those women in the Middle Ages. But I'm an asshole. So
again, everything old is new. Bring back the cures. If it works, it's not stupid.
And look at Elroy. Please. The voice of reason. Finally, the voice of reason here.
You're not wrong. Rabbits are much more deadly. See, Monty Python. You're not wrong. True story.
Run away!
Love it.
Yes.
So are you implying, Salty, that otters aren't anywhere near as deadly as they're making out in that article?
Compared to great white sharks, and ask Steve Irwin about manta rays. Snakes. I don't know. I've seen a lot of otters. I see them all the time. I see them almost every day. Those along with sea lions, walruses, seals, but I'm also not the kind of person who swims out to where they are. Now, again, these people, if this is in fact true, they were tubing down a river in the evening. The fact that there wasn't like a horde or a flock of rabid otters that somehow managed to injure them. There was one, maybe two otters, and one, maybe two means there was maybe one. Okay. There was one otter. Now, for one otter to have enough mad aquatic ninja skills to injure three women, and one seriously enough to call a helicopter ambulance to take her to the hospital. Again, I don't mean to seem insensitive, but I think there's a lot more to this story than we know about. I really do.
I think you're right. And I think the chat's right as well. We've had, films about cocaine bear. We've got a film coming about a sloth. We've got one about a raccoon. Yeah. You're going to get an otter film coming out of this.
Yeah, I should just write it and then get a quick $200,000 and then blow it on hats. Elroy Shredding says sea lions are the most dangerous everyday creature you can come upon contact with, because they will bite the hell out of you. It's true. It is true. I mean, and you know, walruses are huge. I mean, and these damn things on land can move a lot faster than you think. Just a lot faster than you think. It's very true. Cynthia Dildo says otters can clearly smell the Western weakness. They know it's time to attack. Well, that is the thing about when an apocalypse occurs, when a paradigm shift occurs. And I was talking about this, I think, with Gray Wakazashi Tios last night. Is when it is kind of that end times, when a paradigm changes, it is the end of complacency and weakness. And those of us who are neither complacent or weak, we have to live through it. But I have to stop talking because then it gets a little dark. So
yes, and we like dark. I've got to admit, we
spoiler alert. I'm not going to do that. It's your channel, and I don't want you to lose it. Never mind.
That's okay.
I'm going to drink my
I'd rather
coffee.
go out in a blaze of glory. That's fine by me.
I'm going to drink my coffee and pretend that everything's just fine.
Just smile and nod, people. Smile and nod. And let me say hello before we bring the next one up. We have got the man himself. We've got Gray in the house. Great to see you. He says happy Sunday.
Great conversation. I was just talking about you, dude, in our conversation last night. We were trading pictures from different sides of the Pacific. He sent me a picture from Japan of some of the waves coming in from where he was, and I sent him a picture of the waves where I am on the other side of the Pacific from my hike yesterday. So, we're sensitive new age guys here on YouTube. So yeah.
Oh yes. Yeah. Trading pictures of the ocean. I like it.
Yeah. Got to mix up the porn with stuff like that once in a while. Yeah.
There's no answer to that. Oh God! Since we were talking about the Black Death, I thought I'd delve a little bit deeper into this because I think it's actually kind of fascinating, and I love a good picture. And these are woodcuts. So let's have a look, see what they've got. You guys know what the Black Death was. Basically, you caught it. You weren't really going to survive it. Buboes come up in the armpits, the crotch, I believe along the lymph nodes as well. High fever, vomiting, and then you passed away. It was a very quick but really horrific death.
And infectious.
And infectious, yes. And as I said, it didn't help that they killed all of the cats and dogs that probably could have helped control the rat population, which the fleas lived on. I believe it was only the Great Fire of London that really put an end to it by basically burning everything down.
Yeah, it's funny how a lot of stories, not just in the Bible, has a theological text, but also from other religions when they talk about cleansing things with fire. When you're talking about living in unsanitary, crowded conditions in cities, with inappropriate utilities, like the 15-minute cities they're trying to push to everyone now. The only diseases are rampant, and more infant mortality is rampant. And the only way for a lot of those, things full of parasites and everything else and diseases in the water supply and contaminated soil from inappropriate burials is fire, and it's important to remember some of these things for the coming years. I'm just going to say that. So.
Oh, yes. And Sarah Green says, I can't help but wonder why are all these pandemic articles popping up again? Why now? Well, for the same reason that all the alien articles are popping up.
We should send a link to have a bunch of people come in after the show to talk about what's things that YouTube would actually call the authorities on us for, because they're actually true. Okay, like, have you noticed that the truer something is, the more you can't talk about it? Remember that? Remember what it was like in 2020, where you can't talk about things not working, and you can't talk about how 6 feet apart didn't work, and remember all that? And then here we are 3 years later. It's like, well, actually, they were right.
I remember when you couldn't say COVID on your channel. Well, I'm going to say it anyway.
COVID. I mean, and the same thing, you can't say climate something, and your video immediately gets demonetized. Immediately. Like, you cannot appeal it. You can't talk about that. You can't talk about what they're doing to younglings, chopping things off. Immediately demonetized. Immediately. So I'm not saying it's the same situation as COVID, but
well, funny you should say that, because it even says here, however, catching the plague was not automatic death sentence. Some people caught it and survived. Recognize that, whereas some people never caught it at all. Modern science believes that these people had natural immunity to the pathogen that caused the Black Death.
You are a bigot and a racist. You're a climate denier, Purple Valkyrie, for thinking like that.
But for those,
it's a clown show. Once again, we're doing that. They're doing the same things from the Dark Ages and the Middle Ages. It's the same thing. And it's like at a certain point, and I'm gonna not try and get upset. It's just, it is exhausting. It is exhausting. And I think they've engineered an entire generation or two to lack the critical thinking skills to be able to even think what we just did, and to know about these things, Gray and I were talking, or who was I was talking with somebody, it was Nerdporial, about how they're not teaching Greek history or the Greek myths or the archetypes or what that is in a lot of these stories, which really represent some of the worst of human behaviors, which have occurred over and over and over and over and over again through history. Well, they're occurring right now. And a lot of them you can draw a direct parallel to certain cautionary tales from Greek and Roman history in the stories that they told, but they don't teach them anymore. I'm gonna shut up.
No, because they don't want you to recognize. Pattern recognition is a hell of a thing. Let me say hello to Snowdub. Great to see you. Says hit the notifications for this stream, but YouTube never sent it. Are we surprised? Not really.
No, and I'll see you later tonight, Snow. Just let me know what you need. But Snowdub had an awesome show last night. It was rare form. I do play favorites with the Cotton Connection. Obviously, I love Jolly and Puff, but Snacks and Comics Gator was in rare form, humping his waifu pillow last night in a Star Trek red shirt uniform. So that just made me happy. So you guys, please check out Snowdub. Maybe look at his show coming up later tonight. It's awesome to see you, brother.
That's a beautiful thing. I'm gonna have to check that out.
It warmed the cockles of my heart to watch that little green bastard humping his pillow. It was
going at it. Oh my gosh. Let me jump back to this though, because the mind boggles. So 10 ineffective things that they do to cure it. Some of them less ineffective than others. So vinegar was prescribed. So it says
you're gonna pickle it? You're gonna pickle yourself? I mean,
okay. Yeah. So known as 4 Thieves vinegar, this Black Death cure from the medieval period mixed vinegar with garlic, herbs, and spices. That actually sounds amazing. I'd put that on chicken.
Well, in truth, vinegar is a good antiviral, and depending on the concentration of the vinegar, there's lots of supporting evidence that cider vinegar is actually quite good for you, especially with gut-related things. The secret to human mental health, in my opinion, and I have to say this for YouTube, I am not a physician, I am not a provider, is if your gut is unhealthy and you're putting unhealthy things in your body, well, you're not going to be mentally clear, and you're also not physically going to be doing well. That's why a diet high in processed foods ain't so good for you, So I can see what they were doing, but boy, this was essentially bringing a fork to a fight with a whale. Like, it's not going to make a difference,
Yeah, and it was also based on legend. So basically, it was 4 thieves who ransacked the home of dead victims. They protected themselves with this concoction, and supposedly they never contracted the disease.
There is a essential oil blend called 4 Thieves and 5 Thieves, and it actually is based upon the original recipes from the medieval times, and it was about aromatherapy, which is something that Purple talked about earlier, where you could cure the humors. Got it, like ghosts in your blood, you got to drill a hole in your head to get out. But if you made the room smell a certain way, and some of this was frankincense, herb, a lot of the Christmas stuff that baby Jesus got, because all those herbs actually did have medicinal properties. They did. It's just that, again, wrong application. It's like it's essentially like taking a Benadryl for a gunshot wound. It's not really going to help. So
they were in the right vaguely area, but it wasn't enough, because as Salty correctly says, vinegar has been known as a disinfectant since ancient Greek times, but you can't really disinfect from something like the Black Death. I mean, you can try, but it ain't gonna happen. What else did they have? So onions, again, very similar to the previous one. So they thought that they could use onions to cure the plague by rubbing chopped raw onions on the buboes, which are the large pus-filled boils that turned black, hence the name the Black Death. Not only would the onions draw out the toxins, it was thought that onion fumes could combat the miasma. So there
this
you
is
go.
this is another case where
Mhm.
if you're looking at post-apocalyptic first aid, take notes. There are several things that you can use topically to clean wounds, and onions is one of them. You can use
Yes.
onions, you can use garlic,
Honey.
but you can, well, honey's it has to be pure
Mm.
though, and
Mhm.
don't even get me started about most of the honey you buy on the shelf, which is complete and utter trash. But oh my god, I got stream brain. But the thing about onions is that it has again a lot of antiseptic properties which can be used, but in this case, because of the type of infection you're dealing with, this would have done nothing. You would have
Mhm.
smelled like a cheeseburger and died. So, you know,
Yes. Last thing I would want to
no.
be doing is rubbing onion on pus-filled boils. But again, you can see the idea behind it, but
Yeah.
they clearly, they didn't really know what they were doing. Because again, it wasn't thought to be anything as an infection. It was spread
Yeah.
by breathing in. It was a respiration. It was a miasma.
Yeah.
They thought it was
Yeah.
spread by coughing and sneezing. Again, does that sound familiar?
Elroy, what is it? Shredding says a
Shredding.
bacterial
Yep.
pandemic can be nearly 100%. This is true. And
Mm-hmm.
this is why you don't use antivirals against bacteria, because it does nothing. It does nothing. A bacterial infection, and I've had them before, can be life-threatening. And a bacterial pandemic can be nearly 100% lethality because it does not need a live host. It lives on dead corpses for months. More post-apocalyptic first aid stuff here. Cholera and typhoid. That's what happens in that situations. You do not want to handle dead things. You don't. And I'm not talking stuff from the cold section at your supermarket. I'm talking about roadkill. If you encounter any type of dead thing, birds especially, don't go screwing around with it. Okay, like don't go screwing around with it. And if there is a mass casualty event, or should I say win, like proper disposal or GTFO, especially if you're in a densely urban environment. And I know it's kind of dark, and yet this is the world we live in. Like, I'm not saying it. The people who I can't say their names on YouTube are saying it. So, yeah.
They're telling us. And didn't we only a couple of weeks ago cover a story about a group of ladies eating a dead deer?
We did. That was the Naked
Yeah.
Witches in Ontario, and I blame Zax for that. But one of them was kind of hot, so she was topless, and that was fine. And then one was kind of lunch lady, and I could have did without seeing that. But they were out there, and it wasn't a freshly dead deer carcass. We're talking about it was definitely
juicy. Yeah.
It had extra omega-3 protein. But I mean, these are things that you don't want to do. I mean, you don't want to do. Bacteria is very difficult and very resilient and takes an entirely different type of medication and regime to try and conquer. Because once a bacteria gets in your body, it is a very different type. Your fever can spike very quickly, and once you have a spiked fever, your organs start to shut down. So it is no joke. So
absolutely.
I'll stop talking.
No, let me see. Have a great day. So Green, she said, got a bail, but great to see you as always. I'm glad I got some woo woo. We're very glad to have brought it to you. Salty, you're familiar with chickens. You've had chickens in the past, haven't you?
I have. I've had multiple flocks, turkeys, ducks. The hell else have I had? Yeah, I've had a lot of chickens.
Would you consider the Vickery method? Let me explain what it is. So this is one of the more bizarre quack cures of Black Death. This treatment was named the Vickery method after Thomas Vickery, the doctor who promulgated it. It involved plucking feathers from a chicken's backside, then tying the chicken to the patient so that the chicken's bum was touching the patient's buboes. So you've got to squawking.
You have so you have a bare naked chicken ass on your death plague boils, and this didn't work.
Yep.
Wait, this didn't work. Why? Why?
I'm baffled. Let's see. So it says, now if that wasn't weird enough, the thought process behind this strange and highly impractical course of treatment was that people in the medieval period believed chickens breathed through their bottoms. So, therefore, the chicken would draw out the infection from the patient. If the patient then died, well, that's just unfortunate. If the chicken died first, they would simply pluck it and then attach another one. I'm thinking they went through a lot of chickens.
If we're honest about it, this makes a lot more sense than putting up panes of plexiglass at Costco. You know, the ones where it's just like a 4-foot piece of plexiglass, and but it's all open air, you know, or the face shields. You know, it makes about as much sense as putting a flimsy plastic face shield. You remember that on?
Oh, yeah.
It makes, again, how is this any different than what we just went through? It's not, you know, it's not. So yeah. I'd rather put a chicken's ass on my boils, because I think, you know, I think that would actually have much greater probability just on the surface, okay, than what we went through in 2 weeks to slow the spread.
Probably Sentient Dodo really likes the chicken method. What can I say? So once again, bacteria from the chicken would have only made matters worse for the patient and hastened death, and most likely would have hastened the chicken's death as well. So it was kind of stupid, and I wonder how many chickens they went through to do this. Let's see, let's do a couple more. We'll scroll down, see if we can find a good one.
Oh, here we go.
We talked about leeches. There we go. So again, leeches still used today. Not the worst thing, you know, when you have in a controlled environment, but leeches were used as a treatment for the Black Death, much in the same way that the phlegm was, basically to draw bad blood out of the patient. This form of bloodletting was used for localized bloodletting. The phlegm, which was above, was for generalized bloodletting. It's good to know that there were multiple types. The leech would be placed on the patient buboes to draw out toxins and therefore restore the balance of the 4 humors. We're getting back to that again. And this was a particular species of leech. It was, let's see if I can pronounce this, Hrudo medicinalis.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah. So I mean, that actually would have helped.
Yes.
Would it have cured? No. It would have drawn the pus out, but you still have an infection. You know, and that is the challenge here. So much of this depends on the diet, where they put people who were sick, the conditions that they put them in. I mean, just being put in one of those types of places would have led to your expiring. I don't know. I guess if you have a chicken butt strapped on one arm and you got leeches on another, and desperation breeds innovation. You know, and at least they were trying, but they were good. Now feces. Let's talk about feces.
Good. And Snow says, is that where the nugget comes from? Could be. Could very well be. But yeah, this particular species of leech was used so much that it was actually declared extinct in the British Isles at the turn of the 20th century. So they used the leech to extinction, which was terrible. Let's have a look. So human excrement, perhaps the foulest in a long line of revolting plague treatments. You're not wrong. So it was mixed with other substances I don't even want to think about into a paste consistency, smeared on the buboes that had been cut open. That just sounds ridiculous.
Sepsis. It's called sepsis. Yeah. That's what happens.
One way to kill them quicker.
Yeah, that's a great way to make bed space.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it says one recipe was a mixture of feces, ground lily root, and tree sap. After it was applied to the open wound, it would be tightly bound with cloth to, no doubt, fester and hasten death.
This sounds like something I ate at Fridays the last time I ate at that restaurant chain. Yeah, I haven't eaten there in almost 20 years, and I got sick as hell the last time that I did. So I think they were using the same recipe. Ooh, powdered unicorn horn. This must have worked.
Yes.
This
absolutely
must have worked, Purple Valkyrie.
It's got to be another absolutely non-quack thing. So the medieval period is known for its mythical beasts. Incidentally, the unicorn is actually the national animal of Scotland, with the unicorn being perhaps the most intriguing. According to myths, the unicorn could only be subdued and captured by a virgin. I can think of one reason why you don't see unicorns anymore.
I'm no help with that then. I just sorry. Yeah. Yeah, and Snowdub says it sounds like the buffet at the Golden Corral. I know that whole fecal thing.
Not a vibe. Not feeling it.
I am getting hungry talking about unicorn though. Go ahead.
Fancy a little bit of ground up unicorn saucy? Yes.
Yeah. Let me just say this to Gray, completely off topic, that he was talking about watching baseball movies because he wanted to understand American baseball, and he said he watched Bull Durham. Thanks for the recommendation. I love that movie. Love that movie. Sorry, Purple, go ahead.
No, not at all. Always up for a good recommendation. So the cure for this was very expensive, like what it would be, and therefore only available to the very rich, and it was powdered unicorn horn. This powder, known as alicorn, mixed with water and then given to the patient to drink. It's thought that it was actually made from the tusk of a narwhal found in the seas of northern Europe, or from rhinoceros tusk that had come to Europe from Africa, because why the heck not?
Well, and there are a lot of countries in Africa that do the same thing with the horns of other endangered species right now. I believe rhinoceros is one, especially if it's a white rhinoceros. A lot of them are usually cures for impotence or virility or things like that. Chinese traditional medicine does a lot of those things. I believe Japanese culture with Japanese or shark fin, like that type of cartilage. I can't speak to the actual medicinal qualities, if at all. But it is fascinating that cultures around the world were like, there's this crazy, weird looking creature that looks like a unicorn. Let's chop that thing off, grind it up, and then let's smoke it or drink it or whatever it is. To me, it's a sign of desperation, and it's just weird. It's just really, really weird.
And again, it comes down to preying on people. If you're so desperate for a cure, you will believe anything if you think it'll save you yourself or a loved one, even a mythical creature like a unicorn.
Yeah, the thing that all these medieval physicians got wrong is they didn't create their own disease that needed to be fixed and then profit from it. They just tried to cure things that actually were happening. Unlike our 21st century healthcare and pharmaceutical industries, which have figured out that if you just create what it is, the problem, and then have something ready for it. I'm going to stop talking. But
2 weeks.
I got one more story.
Cool.
I got one more story, and then I think this is a banger of a show.
Yes.
Speaking of unicorns, let me know when you're ready.
Ready.
This comes from the New York Post, and authorities in Florida are begging people to stop calling 911 on the manatees having sex on the beach. The sheriffs beg, they are more than fine. And look at the size of that ad. All right.
That's what it is.
Look at this goddamn website. The Pinella County Sheriff's Department on Facebook shared that they're getting way too many calls from passersby seeing manatees all clumped together on the shore. Now, people are calling because they're seeing the manatees are flopping around, making all kinds of noise like they're in distress. Actually, they're just having manatee sex. This is
just
true.
Having a damn good time.
Yeah.
Don't judge.
If you see this, the sheriff's department captured on the reel on Facebook. It shows let me go ahead and pull this up. There. Oh my God! Look at how sorry. Let's go ahead and look at this because the sheriff's department. Let me do this, and I'm going to share this tab. Here we go.
Oh, there they go.
Yeah.
Wow. It's a manatee orgy. Look at that.
Yeah, it is. Don't call us. They're just me. Oh, wait. Am I sharing this?
You're sharing it. Yeah, we see it.
Yeah. So you see, they're just having a little good old-fashioned manatee orgy. And it's nothing to worry about right there.
Just doing their manatee thing. It's okay.
Wow. What? They have just stop putting so much shit on your websites. Yeah.
What did they think that they were going to do anyway if they called them to help?
Yeah. I don't know. Let me get through this article. Oh my God, look at this. We can assure you that the manatees are more than fine. Manatees actually mate in herds, so they are orgies of manatees, and they are often near the shore. They mate throughout the year, but generally mating herds like these are seen during the summer months. Now, mating season for manatees occurs March to September, especially in the hottest of months like July and September. Mating aggregations occur in shallow coastal waters and consist of 10 to 15 manatees, all having manatee orgy sex. So there it is. That's normal, folks.
Don't judge. I think the people calling him were just jealous.
Of course, manatees are protected under Florida state law. It is unlawful for any person at any time, intentionally or unintentionally or negligently, to annoy, molest, harass, or disturb any manatee, especially when they're having a manatee orgy. So just want to do a little community service out there. Want to let people know if you're in Florida and you see a bunch of manatees in the shallows, they're just knocking manatee boots.
They're just getting it on. Absolutely. Yep. And Camper says, the humanity. Oh, Wakazashi says dark age of the manatees.
The dark of the manatees. I'd say it's more like the poke.
Wow.
So I'm not going to make that joke. Yeah, it's who knew manatees thought it was the 70s, like with just having these crazy big bush orgies out on the beach all the time. I didn't know that. No. And DJ Ronnie G's not wrong. They would blame the weather for this.
You were not wrong. And let me say hello to our favorite vampire Nosferatu who's in. He says shout out to my box wine brother.
Hey, cheers to you. He says tapeworm diet. That's the South. Oops, it went away. The South Bronx. That's all right. Yeah, shout out to my box wine brother and sister. It's awesome to see you, Nos. Thanks for being here.
Great to see you.
And Snowdub says he believes in trans manatee rights. It's true. Well, I'm just shocked that the Manatee Awareness Foundation didn't pick Lizzo as their spokesman for.
I think she's been cancelled now. Yes.
Well, I don't know why Chiquita Bananas didn't hire her as for her ads. She seems to really like those bananas.
Everyone loves a good banana. What can I say?
Salty winter.
Oh my God, guys! What the hell? This was a great show.
Yeah.
What do you think? That was awesome. Thank you. Salty. What have you got coming up before we let people get on with their Saturday?
I'll probably sneak into Snowdub's live show tonight with the Cotton Connection. Great dude. I talked with Wakazashi's tea house last night. Had a great conversation, a little bit deeper. You did. Has more Wheel of Time news worth covering comes out. Obviously, I'm going to cover that. And but yeah, I'm just it's just fun to talk about woo woo. This world is absolutely insane. And it's good to talk about these things, have a couple laughs, and be inappropriate. And it's also, I think, important to point out how, again, everything old is new again. And look at what they did in the Middle Ages. Look at the kind of crazy superstition and mass hysteria that was driven through for reasons, just not knowing any better. And then look at what happens when people who do know better drive those same types of things. It's just funny how that works. So,
yes, and as a species, we just fall into line. It's kind of disturbing, but you are welcome. Thank you for joining. Hope to do some more woo-woo very, very soon. But as always, you guys in the chat were amazing. Thank you so much. Great to see you guys. So we will be back very, very soon. Please, if you are not subscribed to Salty, do so. You will not go wrong. And we will see you again in the future. Take care, guys.
See you later.